I want to welcome one particular aspect of the Queen's speech, and that is the commitment that we will continue to play a leading role in global affairs, defending our interests and promoting our values. We will position ourselves at the forefront of the most complex international security issues. That is why, Madam Deputy Speaker, the sins and omissions of this Queen's speech are quite intriguing, because there is one point on earth where we have a particular legacy, where promises were made by the world community, where promises were broken by the world community, and where the world community has now left the most terrible state of injustice, and that is Kashmir. So I was surprised that there has been no mention in this debate today about our historic obligations to make good on the promises that were made back in the 1940s. I know that much of this debate, quite rightly, has centred on the issues around Brexit, but our obligations, our duties, our moral responsibilities, our history, our commitments stretch much, much wider than that. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think that we should step up and do far more to raise our voice, to try and bring a resolution to what is going on right now. Some people say that this is some kind of conflict between two nuclear powers. Only it was as simple as that. This isn't a conflict between two nuclear powers. This is a conflict between three nuclear powers. China today is the world's biggest consumer of Gulf oil. It is building an oil pipeline from China through Pakistan so that it soon can access oil through that overland route. The idea that China is going to permit someone to put its thumb on what is a new jugular vein, I think, is pretty fanciful analysis. So I'd like to know from the Minister, when he comes to wind up, why is the British government insisting that this remains a bilateral conflict? This is a fantasy. It is a fantasy enshrined in a treaty, in the Treaty of Simla. But in recent days we have had the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, say that that treaty is dead. It is no longer a bilateral issue. And by its unilateral action to suspend Article 370 of the Constitution, unilateral action, by the way, which is prohibited by the Treaty of Simla, President Modi has said in clear terms that this is now something that requires a multilateral solution. President Modi's decision to suspend Article 370 has set the stage for what is an incredibly dangerous slide to violence. He has set the stage in a way where there is risk now multiplied by the decision to deploy thousands more troops to what is already one of the most militarised areas on earth. And that danger, in turn, has been multiplied yet again by the decision to suspend all communications and put the people under curfew in what surely must be one of the largest open prisons on the planet. Now, we signed a treaty, the Instrument of Accession, on the 26th of October 1947. We're a party to this, in a way. That treaty has now been breached. We've heard nothing from the British government about how they plan to remedy this. But crucially, what ministers have accepted is that human rights are always a multilateral issue. And so what we must hear from a government which has set out before this Parliament a clear determination to put itself at the forefront of solving, in its own words, the most complex international security difficulties. We now need a plan from them to stand up for the interests of British citizens. I'm not the only one on these benches, I'm not the only one in this House who has got cases coming to them from people with friends and families in the area, and they've no idea what's going on with them because there has been a communications blackout. But crucially, what we now need from this government, Madam Deputy Speaker, is clear and urgent action in the United Nations to ensure that the Office of the Human Rights Observer in the UN is given free and unfettered access to the area on both the Pakistan side and on the Indian side too. I want to know from the Minister what he has done to pursue this agenda in the United Nations. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, surely the time has come, if we are to put ourselves at the forefront of solving international difficulties, that we push for a multilateral solution to this decades-long injustice. There have been 295 international disputes between the Second World War and the 1990s that involved the use of force by one state on the other. 171 of them have entailed some kind of negotiation. And where the difficulties were the most intractable and where the breakthroughs were most significant were when we accepted that there was only a multilateral path to peace. That's why we ourselves turned to Senator Mitchell to help broker the Good Friday Agreement. That is why the world turned to President Carter to help broker the Camp David agreements. That is why we turned to Richard Holbrooke to help bring about the Ohio Accords. This is an injustice which has gone on for too long. And if the government is serious about what it says, and we never know, Madam Deputy Speaker, perhaps it is, it will step up to its responsibility to bring this injustice to an end.